In 1405, a fleet left China so vast it carried more men than lived in most European cities. Its flagships may have been the largest wooden ships ever built, dwarfing anything Columbus would sail almost a century later. For 30 years, China ruled the oceans. Then it burned the records, banned the ships, and turned its back on the sea. This is how the greatest navy on Earth vanished. To understand what was lost, picture the world in the early 1400s. China, under the new Ming dynasty, was the richest, most advanced civilization on Earth. It had gunpowder, printing, paper money, and iron production. Europe would not match for centuries. Its greatest cities held close to 1 million people, and a new emperor wanted the whole world to know exactly how far ahead his empire stood. That emperor had seized the throne by force, marching on his own nephew and burning him out of the palace. His name was Zhu Di, the Yongle Emperor. A usurper needs legitimacy, and Zhu Di dreamed in scale. He would move the capital to Beijing, raise the Forbidden City, and send a fleet to every known shore to gather the world's tribute and lay it at his feet. To command it, he chose a most unlikely admiral. Born Ma He, a Muslim boy from Yunnan, he had been captured in war as a child, castrated, and raised as a servant in Zhu Di's household. He grew into a towering, brilliant soldier and diplomat. The emperor gave him a new name, Zheng He, and command of the largest fleet the world had ever seen. On the Yangtze at Nanjing, the Longjiang shipyards became an industrial machine. Thousands of carpenters, caulkers, and blacksmiths worked dry docks the size of lakes. Timber floated down from the deep interior, nails and anchors poured from the forges. They built to a scale that still strains belief. And here, the historians begin to argue about just how big these ships could truly have been. The Ming histories describe treasure ships over 400 feet long, 9 masts, decks stacked like a floating palace. Many scholars doubt a wooden hull could grow so large without tearing itself apart. Whatever the true figure, they were giants, several times the size of Columbus's Santa Maria, which measured perhaps 85 feet. The fleet was a city that moved across the open sea. And it truly was a city. More than 300 ships, nearly 27,000 men, sailors, soldiers, interpreters, doctors, astronomers, cooks, even scholars. There were water tankers, horse transports, warships, and supply vessels carrying grain and fresh water for months at sea. In the summer of 1405, this floating empire slipped down the river and out into open water, bound for a world China meant to impress. The first voyage steered south through the pirate-haunted straits to the great trading ports of Southeast Asia and on to Calicut on the coast of India. Everywhere Zheng He came not to conquer but to overawe, to trade in silk and porcelain, to hand out gifts, and to invite kings to acknowledge the Ming emperor. Most did. The ones who refused learned their mistake. In the Strait of Malacca ruled a pirate lord named Chen Zuyi, who preyed on merchant ships. Zheng He offered peace, then sprang a trap. The histories say thousands of pirates fell, and Chen Zuyi was carried in chains back to China and executed. The message traveled faster than any ship. The Ming fleet could reach across the world and end you where you stood. This was the entire point. Not colonies, not territory, but a web of tribute stretching across the Indian Ocean. Kings from Sumatra to Ceylon to the Arabian coast sent envoys and gifts back to China aboard the treasure ships. Some sailed to Nanjing themselves. For a generation, the courts of Asia turned toward a single center of gravity, and that center was the Ming throne. Voyage after voyage pushed farther. The fleets reached Hormuz at the mouth of the Persian Gulf and the incense ports of Arabia. Some of Zheng He's Muslim officers, he likely among them, made the pilgrimage toward Mecca. Chinese porcelain traded for frankincense, pearls, and precious gems. No power on earth projected reach like this. Not the Ottomans, not Venice, no one at all. Then the fleets did something Europe would not manage for 80 more years. They crossed to the coast of Africa, to Malindi and Mombasa, on the shore of what is now Kenya. Chinese sailors walked African markets. African envoys boarded Chinese ships. Porcelain shards from this age still surface in the sand there today, mute proof that the story is not a legend. From Africa came the strangest cargo of all. In 1414, an envoy brought a giraffe to the Ming court. To Chinese eyes, it recalled the Qilin, a mythical beast said to appear only when a truly virtuous ruler reigned. The court erupted. Here was heaven's own approval, walking on 4 long legs. For Zhu Di, the usurper, no gift on earth could have been more precious. By the 1420s, China stood at a summit no one had ever reached. Its fleet had touched some 30 kingdoms across 2 oceans. Its capital gleamed with a new forbidden city. And yet, at that very height, the ground was already shifting. Building this glory had cost fortunes. And in the quiet halls of government, a patient, powerful enemy was gathering against the whole enterprise. The enemy was ideology. The scholar officials who ran the empire were Confucians, and they despised the voyages. To them, the fleets were the vanity of eunuchs and emperors. Vast sums poured into foreign luxuries, while famine and Mongol raids threatened at home. Trade by sea, they held, was beneath a proper civilization. Virtue lay in farmland and order, not in restless wandering ships. In 1424, Zhu Di died on campaign against the Mongols. With him died the fleet's fiercest patron. His son, sickly and cautious, listened to the scholars and suspended the voyages within days of taking the throne. The great ships sat idle at their moorings, sails furled. It seemed the age of exploration was already over, until one last extraordinary voyage still to come. In 1430, a new emperor revived the fleet one final time. Zheng He, now around 60, took command once more and sailed the old routes to Hormuz and the African coast as if to prove the enterprise still lived. It was his farewell. Somewhere on the long return journey around 1433, the great admiral died. The histories say he was buried at sea. With Zheng He gone, the scholar officials moved to end the voyages forever, not merely to stop them, but to erase the very possibility of them. What followed was one of the most deliberate acts of national forgetting in history. A country that had ruled the oceans decided the oceans were a mistake and set about making sure no one could ever try again. The official Liu Daxia is said to have seized the fleet's logs, maps, and sailing records and destroyed them, calling the voyages a deceitful waste. Whether he burned them or simply hid them until they rotted, the effect was the same. The hard-won knowledge of how to reach Africa, gathered patiently over 30 years, was fed to the flames and lost. The great ships were left to rot at their moorings until their timbers simply fell apart. New laws made it a crime to build an ocean-going junk with more than 2 masts. Later, coastal families were ordered inland and foreign trade choked off. The shipyards fell silent. Within a lifetime, China could no longer build the fleet it had once sailed to Africa. Now hold the dates side by side. Zheng He reached the African coast in the 1410s and 1420s. Portugal's little caravels crept down that same coast only in the 1480s and 1490s. When Vasco da Gama finally rounded into the Indian Ocean, he sailed waters a Chinese fleet had mastered and then abandoned 3 full generations before him. So the question hangs there. What if China hadn't turned away? A power that could cross oceans at will, meeting European ships not as a curiosity, but as a rival navy many times their size. Historians warn against easy fantasies. China sought tribute, not conquest or colonies. But the balance of the whole world might have tilted on a very different axis. The deeper lesson is not really about ships. It is about a civilization that looked at its own greatest achievement and chose to walk away for reasons of budget, of ideology, of who happened to hold power at court. Greatness, it turns out, is not only built, it is permitted. And what one generation permits, the next can quietly forbid, then forget it ever existed. For 30 years, the largest ships on Earth carried an empire to the edge of the known world. Then that empire burned its own maps and forgot the way. The ocean kept no record of their passing, only shards of porcelain in distant sand, and a giraffe that once walked into a palace. History does not always belong to the bold. Sometimes it belongs to those who simply chose to stay. Subscribe for more of the ancient world, reconstructed.